If your first response to hearing the words Spider-Man is, Spider-Man does whatever a spider can, then you're in good company. We all know that the hero's remarkable skill set allows him to leap, climb, and cling to walls just like a regular spider. Use these powers in conjunction with his remarkable web shooters, and Spidey's form of locomotion is pretty much taken care of. So why would a character so well equipped to move through his environment need something as primitive as a car? I'm Jason Mink, and I'll tell you why at breakfast.
Breakfast.
Good morning, and welcome to Comics for Breakfast. Pairing a fictional character with a distinctive ride is nothing new. Lone Ranger had Silver, Flash Gordon had his rocket, and Batman, well, he got around in something. The point is that few things jazz up an already action-packed adventure like a souped-up vehicle. Readers knew it, publishers knew it, and toy companies, well, you can bet that they were well aware. And while scattered earlier examples exist, we're narrowing our focus to the early 1970s and a little toy company called Mego. Mego had acquired the license to produce toys of both Marvel and DC properties in the early part of the 1970s. The company's Batman and Robin figures sold especially well, so it seemed like a no-brainer for Mego to introduce a vehicle for the dynamic duo to get around in. So popular was the Batmobile that it was re-released multiple times, becoming a well-loved toy in its own right. Eager to catch lightning in a bottle twice, Mego released other Bat vehicles to moderate success. Emboldened by this, rumor has it that Mego approached publisher Stan Lee about creating a new ride for the company's best-selling Marvel character, the Amazing Spider-Man. What old webhead needed a car for when he got around by swinging seemed beside the point. Stan could smell an opportunity, and being the businessman that he was, moved to make this request a reality. The Spider-Mobile made its debut in Amazing Spider-Man number 130. Cooked up by Lee and writer Gary Conway, readers had been following the vehicle's progress since issue 126, when a pair of advertising executives first made their rooftop pitch to the wall crawler. These executives, who bore a suspicious resemblance to the publisher and writer, sold the hero on the concept of promoting a car featuring a new eco-friendly engine. And while the web had initially declined their offer, Spidey soon had second thoughts. Hey, even superheroes have bills to pay. To the webhead's surprise, he discovers that while the experimental motor will be provided for free, the rest of the car is up to him to design and manufacture. After pondering his latest problem, Spidey does the sensible thing. He finds someone else to do the work for him. The someone in question is no less than longtime rival and Marvel's premier gearhead, Johnny Storm, a.k.a. the Human Torch. Spidey half-harasses Johnny into agreeing to help, then promptly swings off. Over the next few issues, readers are given intermittent updates, with the big debut finally happening in Amazing Spider-Man number 130 from March of 1974. Unable to sleep, Spidey takes to the streets, where he encounters this little group. Thugs in matching onesies means trouble at this hour, something the group's conspiratorial mumblings confirm. Seems the boss wants them to target a skyscraper, but before we can learn more, Spidey drops in and starts clonking heads. Pursuing one of the now fleeing stooges, Spidey brings him down, demanding to know just what the gang is up to. However, before he can spill his guts, the fellow's eyes flash, his brain fried by a sudden electrical discharge. Elsewhere, two figures argue in the darkness of a warehouse pier. And hey, it's gangster Hammerhead and that weirdo, the Jackal. Seems the latter has proposed a partnership, but Hammerhead is loath to associate with such a creepy character. I mean, the guy's underpants are the same color as his fur suit. What's that all about? Later that morning, Spider-Man takes to the New York City skyline with a surprising location in mind. Rousting Johnny Storm from his bed in the Baxter Building, Spidey demands to see his long-awaited car. And Johnny obliges, taking the webhead to where his chariot awaits. Not sure what Spidey was expecting, but beggars can't be choosers. The pair gamely take the vehicle to the snowy streets, where Johnny shows off nifty accessories like the spider signal and the hood-mounted web cannons. With that, Spidey puts the pedal to the metal, only there's one problem. He can't drive. After nearly killing multiple pedestrians and bouncing his new ride up onto the sidewalk, Johnny slows the fool's roll, demanding he teach Spidey some common-sense driving tips before turning him loose on the city. From his vantage point in a grimy alleyway, Dr. Octopus views the proceedings, modifying his plans accordingly. Upon arriving at his destination, he brutalizes a helicopter pilot for his perfidy, then jets off towards his Westchester hideaway. Meanwhile, back at his pad, Spidey doffs his costume, resuming his civilian identity as news photographer Peter Parker. It's good timing, as Aunt May is calling to see how her favorite nephew has been. Only, what's with Smokey Joe over there? We never get a chance to find out, as the conversation is interrupted by Ginger Dervish, Mary Jane Watson, who immediately begins rifling through Petey's records. Presumably in a bid to stop her before she finds his Sergeant Barry Sadler disc, he dresses and they head out for the night. 4 days later, and it's Christmas Eve. And remember those yellow-suited guys from earlier? Well, they found a nice magenta building to rob. But it's no game, punko. The Spider-Mobile is on the scene. Laughing his fool head off, Spidey strikes one of the goons with his front bumper while spraying another with a web cannon. Committing crimes or not, you can't drive a car into people, man. The only thief left standing makes a run for it. I guess he forgot about the jetpack he's wearing. Jerry Conway did. Just then, Hammerhead appears, knocking the Spider-Mobile sideways into the street. Volunteering entirely too much information about his plans, the gangster attempts to squash his arachnid foe. While Spidey counters his first attack, Hammerhead moves with an unexpected speed, driving his steel-plated skull into Spidey's spine. And while this should be enough to leave old Pete in a wheelchair for the rest of his life, he somehow manages to survive, losing only his dignity. When New York's finest arrive on the scene, our hero scrambles to retrieve his car before it's impounded. Without it, there's no payoff from the ad men. In the process, he finds a mysterious envelope addressed to Aunt May. This is the all-important clue in Doc Ock's bigger scheme of marrying May Parker to acquire her inherited atomic reactor. It's complicated and has nothing to do with the Spider-Mobile, so let's move on. Peter soon arrives at Betty and Ned's Christmas Eve party. With a flip of a switch, the Spider-Mobile transforms into a more discreet vehicle. This Johnny Storm kid is an unrecognized genius. Parker joins the party, soon crossing paths with boss JJJ, who provides him with this unexpected Christmas bonus. Welcome to Flavor Country, kid. Ducking hot to trot Mary Jane, Peter slips into an empty room to read the mysterious envelope. To his horror, the scenario comes into shocking focus. Slipping out the window, Peter rushes 32 miles across the city to Westchester, only to behold this wholly unexpected scene. Aunt May marrying Doc Ock? Say it isn't so! Only we know it's so, as we reviewed that issue in a previous episode. The Spider-Mobile next appeared in Amazing Spider-Man number 142, although it's clear our hero is still a better web-slinger than a Sunday driver. As our story begins, the cops are attempting to run old Webhead down. They don't cotton to the crime fighter's law-breaking ways, and who could blame them? That Spider-Man is a menace. Here he is now, off-roading on the museum steps. He darts down an alley just as a mysterious fog rises, obscuring his view. To no one's real surprise, he drives directly into the Hudson River, which is a shock at any time. Climbing out of the water, our hero is forced to spend the rest of the story getting around the old-fashioned way, but returns to the next issue with a rope to at least prevent his buggy from being washed out to sea. An inauspicious beginning, to be certain. Attentive readers next noted Spidey's ride popping up in the PBS TV title tie-in Spidey Super Stories. Yes, the same comic that gave the world the beloved Thanos copter also gave fans another chance to ride along in the now presumably trashed Spider-Mobile. Let's join the action, already in progress. It's the day of the big race, and wouldn't you know it, Peter's already late. Arriving in his guise as Spider-Man, the hero swings into the arena with his automatic camera at the ready. After placing it high in the stands where it can take pictures unencumbered, he streaks over to where the reporter Norman Nice is doing an interview with last year's winner. Acting every bit the glory hound a certain newspaper publisher claims him to be, Spidey shows off for a bit. However, ruining his moment to mug is Car 56, a.k.a. the sinister Smog Man. The web spinner leaps into action, taking the wheel of the Spider-Mobile and giving chase. And while smogging your competitors is certainly unsportsmanlike, ensnaring them in a webbing that takes an hour to evaporate is surely against the rules. No matter, the race is on. We learn the big winner here will receive $100,000 for their favorite cause. As we've seen so far, Spidey's favorite cause is himself, so I'm not sure how that's going to work out. Broadcast live on TV, we're treated to this wonderful moment of our favorite curmudgeonly publisher. On the speedway, Spidey is about to be overtaken by a mysterious yellow car, which quickly pushes the webhead out of his lane. And wouldn't you just know it, it's the Shocker who takes a cheap shot at the wall crawler. He gets a face full of webbing for his trouble, a potentially murderous move from Spidey. But I guess cars never wreck and jackknife into the bleachers in this world. Nearby, a group of kids watch the action on a department store window, which is where everyone got their news back then. Back on the track, Spidey creates a web ramp to lure his foe away, and the damn fool follows. On the advice of the Doobie Brothers, Spidey takes it to the streets, where there are a lot more potential casualties to rack up. He ducks into an alleyway, but the Shocker cuts him off, blasting both the hood-mounted web cannons and Spidey's own web shooters in the process. Luckily, Morgan, Easy Reader Freeman, is on the scene. Swinging around the corner, he drives a bus into the Shocker, then pelts him with books for good measure. This is enough to bring the quilted criminal to his knees, but there's still a race to win. Bounding over the wall of the racetrack comes the Spider-Mobile, and Easy's come along for the ride. Instead of being called out for the big stinky cheater that he so clearly is, Spidey is instead awarded first prize, which he gives to the highly animated Easy. Imagine the bus he can afford to buy now. And while any comic that features Spider-Man driving around with Morgan Freeman is of course brilliant, longtime readers were understandably unimpressed with such lightweight fare. They wanted to know the true fate of the Spider-Mobile, and they wouldn't have to wait long to get it. Amazing Spider-Man number 160 treated readers to the sense-shattering shocker entitled My Killer, the Car. Blowing off steam after a long day of study, Spidey comes upon a fur theft in progress. It's an event seemingly tailor-made to catch the web spinner's attention, and for a good reason. A gas bomb explodes just then, an obscuring mist filling the air. Even worse, it seems to cling to our hero, choking him out. As it dissipates, an unexpected apparition appears in the form of the Spider-Mobile, last seen at the bottom of the Hudson River. So how did it get here? And why is it trying to kill Spider-Man? Sans driver, the colorful vehicle charges again, damned inconvenient considering Spidey's run out of web fluid. He leaps over the oncoming vehicle, attempting to scramble up the wall to safety, only, to his horror, he's unable to adhere to the building's surface. The Spider-Mobile, seemingly possessed, slams into the wall before jarring our hero back to terra firma. Luckily, he's got a drain pipe? Well, use whatever you've got on hand, I reckon. Spidey uses the pipe as a pole vault, springing high into the air away from the offending auto. He lands on the roof of a parked police car, which you think would be a little more noticeable to its passengers. However, the cops do spy the Spider-Mobile attempting to... Well, can a car be sneaky? The police pursue the enigmatic vehicle, but it seems to have vanished as abruptly as it appeared. Webhead then slips away to do some Peter Parker stuff, not germane to our little video, but later he attempts to pick up the trail. Turns out the PR department is now threatening to sue the wall crawler unless he can make with the goods. But where to find a Spider-Mobile? At this hour. A familiar fog leads our hero down an alley where a pair of headlights flash. It's the Spider-Mobile and time for round 2. The buggy drives straight up the wall at an unbelieving Spidey who leaps to a nearby building for safety. However, it's no dice. Seems there's nothing the wall crawler can do that his vehicle can't equal. The strange mist again robs him of his powers, and Spidey proves easy prey for the car. Cornered, he attempts to swing away, but lack of web fluid sends him plunging to the street. However, the Spider-Mobile catches the falling hero, binding him in a web line and pulling him into the car's interior. Driving with a mind of its own, the Spider-Mobile crosses the rooftops in its own unique way. Weird, but remember, this is New York. The car delivers the web spinner to its new master, no one less than the terrible Tinker. After playing the greatest long game in history, he's back for revenge or some such. Spidey's too busy trying to escape his web cocoon to worry about such niceties. After repeatedly taunting Tinker's muscle toy, the lunkhead foolishly frees Spidey from his bindings. Now able to move, Spidey makes short work of the thug, once again earning the ire of the local Chimney Owners Association. Knowing the jig is up, Tinkerer attempts to escape in the Spider-Mobile, but our hero's patience is at a sudden end. He attempts to commandeer the vehicle, but a chop from Tink sends him sprawling. Let's hear it for the old guy. Sadly, this leads to the Spider-Mobile driving full speed into a nearby wall, totaling the vehicle and the arch-villain. Toy, however, hasn't had enough, but some judicious use of the wrecked car's web cannon wraps up the problem fairly effectively. A short time later, and Spidey returns the Spider-Mobile to its legal owners, creating a death trap for the folks below in the process. Okay, so we've seen the comic version of the Spider-Mobile, but what did the toy company come up with on their end? Well, in 1976, Mego provided fans with the Amazing Spider Car. And yes, there are some differences. While the comic version looked more like a tricked-out version of TV's Speed Buggy, Mego's effort was more in the fantasy car mold made popular by Hot Wheels and other popular brands. And while it obviously couldn't climb walls or shoot webs, Mego tried to give kids some bang for their buck with a web trap on the back, which was essentially a hairnet. It was less than inspiring, but the precedent had been set. In the following years, Mego and other toy companies would produce their own spider vehicles, but none would enjoy the cachet of the original. As for the Spider-Mobile itself, well, it would eventually return to the Marvel Universe, most notably in the Old Man Logan storyline, where a retired Wolverine and a now blind Hawkeye used the vehicle in their trek across the blighted landscape of future America. Too grim for you? Well, it's also appeared in recent Spider-Man titles, often as the butt of a joke. For all that, the Spider-Mobile remains a potent reminder, both then and now, that creative decisions are more often than not motivated by money than the almighty muse. Even so, some good can come of it. Morgan Freeman doesn't ride shotgun with just anybody. Thank you for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing it on your favorite social media platform. I'm Jason Mink, and I hope to see you next Sunday at breakfast.